Hello and welcome to John's Author Diary for the week ending May the 16th, 2021. I have had a bad week in terms of productivity. I think pushing myself last week, it led to me getting eye strain. So that has put me back a bit. Um, I used to do newspaper reporting back in the day, and it felt like last Friday was like one of the deadline days that we used to do where we would push ourselves to get the thing done, and then the next day would just be we'd all be frazzled, and that's how I felt. But because I've not done it for a while, I think it really took its physical toll on my eyes. So that wasn't good. Lesson learned. I won't be doing that again. I think if there's a week where stuff isn't going to work in terms of my targets, then I just need to accept that and adjust. So I also had a haircut this week, and Wednesday was my birthday, 29 again. So that was fun. Enjoyed that. Had some cake, had some beer, went for a walk with a friend along Morecambe Prom. So exciting times, I'm sure you'd agree. Um, there's a lot of bitty stuff that I did this week, so things like outlining and redrafting and editing and things like that. But my actual word count is probably going to be about 3,000 words for the week. So yeah, lesson, just don't push myself. I've got a good routine. I need to remember that and keep that. I did get a lot of reading done this week. So I read a book called The Anunnaki Connection by Heather Lynn, PhD. She put PhD on a book cover, so you know it's important. And I think this is one of those occasions where she lent on the fact that she's got a PhD, don't know where it was from, but to give it some kind of credibility. And I don't know, the some of the chapters in this book were what I would describe as magical thinking. Some of them seemed to be rigorous, like really interesting research, and then others were just speculative nonsense that was just completely out there. And it was, I don't know, the worst kind of pseudo history cloaked in academic language. So didn't fall for it, but it was interesting. I like the approach. I like the approach in the sense that she tried to balance the kind of academic history of the Anunnaki. So this is the Sumerian legends. Um, it's all about aliens, ancient aliens, and things like that. So she tried to balance the alternative researchers with the academic stuff, which I like. I like that idea because I think independent researchers, I think amateurs do bring something really interesting to the mix. I think they can point research in interesting directions. And because amateurs might focus on something very specific that might not be necessarily of an academic interest, then that could be a really good area to look into. But for me, it didn't do it as a history book. But a story fuel, I like this kind of stuff. This kind of stuff is a gold mine, and hopefully not the type of gold mine worked on by the Anunnaki's human slaves. So I also read Dark Currants by Lindsay Buroker. So this is a second book in her Emperor's Edge series. So it's kind of fantasy, steampunk, kind of group of thieves, kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, heist kind of stuff, adventure, fun, excitement. So I really enjoyed this book. A lot of fun. I will carry on with the series, I'm sure, pick it up again at a later date. I'm currently reading a series called King's Dark Tidings. So I've read the first two books, which are Free the Darkness and Reign of Madness by Kel Kade. So this is kind of dark assassin fantasy stuff. And I don't know, like I'm enjoying the series, but there's a lot of things in these books that kind of infuriating. Um, so there's a lot of head hopping when I'm reading it, so it's a bit jarring. It goes from one character's head to another within a scene, and the main character, he's like this badass assassin guy. He's always in the right place to overhear plots as are being outlined at the most convenient times. So that is very convenient. It's very lucky, but it always seems to fall in the right place. So I don't know. There's a bit of an issue there for me, and I think the other issue is that the main character He's basically this guy who's been highly trained assassin. He's been brought up all his life to be this complete and utter ultimate warrior kind of character. I'm not talking about the professional wrestler here. And so he just doesn't seem to have any stakes. There's nothing that really escalates. He's basically like Superman, but if Superman was immune to kryptonite. And so, I'll give you an example. In the opening scene of this book, he gets into a fight with 15 elite soldiers and he defeats them all in one fight. And then the next book, he has to go through a tournament where he's got to defeat, the top warriors in the kingdom. And I think there's 14 of these people he has to go through in individual fights. So it's like, yeah, it's like it's not escalating. It's like it's easier. And then he has to take on 7 elite soldiers. So he's already done 14. We know he can beat 14 handily. So it's like, well, great. He can beat 7 soldiers. Okay, we know he can already do that. But that being said, I'm being dragged through the series. I really like the writing. The pacing's punchy. And the fight scenes are brilliant. They're really well done, really well choreographed. They feel like the author is just a master at fighting scenes, and everything else is kind of it's fine, but the fighting scenes are tremendous. So really enjoying it for the fighting scenes. So next week I have got my COVID jab booked. So who knows how I'll feel? Who knows how much work I'll get done? I've got friends who have had the COVID jab and have been absolutely fine. I've had some who have been ill, some have had migraines, some have had flu like symptoms and been in bed for days. So I don't know what to expect for next week, but I need to have this jab. We need to get out of this situation. So whatever happens, I'll take paracetamols and I'll just spend a few days in bed listening to audiobooks if necessary. Finally, then, I had a question this week. This was from Denise Sherman on YouTube. So she said, John, you have an amazing voice. Have you thought about being a narrator plus author as well? Thank you for the compliment about my voice. I think you're the first person who has ever complimented my voice. I'm assuming that you're not from the UK just based on that question because my accent, there's a lot of snobbishness in the UK about my accent. I've got a Midlands accent and a lot of people don't like it. You will rarely hear this accent on television, anything like that. In terms of the actual practicalities of doing narration, I've tried doing narration for some of my own stuff and it's really hard just because of my eyes. Um, the condition I've got is a thing called retinitis pigmentosa, and what that does is it means that, well, my left eye's completely shot and I've got no peripheral vision in my right eye. So if you imagine when I'm reading lines, it's like scanning across. It's hard to follow the lines. So the way I read is actually really clumsy and I find it really difficult. And going back to what I said earlier about eye strain is a perfect way if I'm focused on something for a long time to get eye strain. So I can talk and hopefully, you can understand me fine on these podcasts. But in terms of doing audiobooks or anything like that, absolutely not. I've got no intention of doing that. So if you've got a question, please do leave them in the comments on YouTube. Hit like, subscribe. I think there's a bell ding people do. Do that. That'd be great. So until next time, cheerio.